Hello and welcome to Odds on Serie A Matchday 9 after the international break. Not a good one for Italy. We are back with Daniele Fisichella to analyze this Matchday 9. But Danny, in Italy, everyone is talking about betting.
Yes, illegal ones, of course, because Tonali and Fagioli are facing a lengthy suspension. Well, Fagioli, the midfielder from Juventus, will miss the next 7 months of professional activity. Probably Tonali, another lengthy suspension. We still don't know what's happening to Zaniolo. Zaniolo and Tonali now play in England, where Italy did a good first half, probably deserved to be ahead after 45 minutes, but then England found a second gear, another gear. Italy had no answer. It faded away. It's a 3-1 defeat in the end, as prognosticated in our program with Alvaro, and now Italy needs to beat North Macedonia. That's easy, isn't it?
Well, in 1 month, we will go back to international football. In the meantime, let's analyze all the games we have in Italy. Remember, as always, like the video, comment with us, Serie A, subscribe to our channel, of course, help us growing. And now let's go on with the show. And it's not exactly Italy, but was a great international break for San Marino, able to score 1 goal against Denmark, and they celebrated in a big fashion, of course. So if you, for instance, bet on San Marino to score a goal against Denmark, I'm sure you made a lot of money, and you can get also a lot of money if you deposit with 1xBet. Thanks to Oddspedia, we have a great welcome bonus with them, 130%. This is exclusive, thanks to Oddspedia. So use our promo code. You have the link in the description, and subscribe if you want with this bookie. Well, Danny, let's start analyzing the games. We have 3 games on Saturday. Champions League is back the following week, so this is why. For instance, the first game is Verona, Napoli, and we left back Napoli with back-to-back defeats at home, conceding 3 goals against Fiorentina, 3 goals against Real Madrid. Already 7 points away from Milan, so the defense of the Scudetto is not being great so far, and this is a must-win, especially against a team, Danny, that they struggle a lot to score only 1 goal in the last 5.
Chances are very few now for Rudy Garcia to get it right. If he doesn't really get it right in the next 3-4 games, I think De Laurentiis in the end will pull the plug and sack him. He actually tried to get a new manager during this international break. We know he spoke with Antonio Conte. Conte is not quite sold on the idea of going to Napoli, but really looks like the time is running out for Garcia, who, by the way, has changed a bit. And everything about Napoli tactically is still the same 4-3-3 formation, but they change the way they play. They look to play quicker, keep the ball less, throw the ball longer, and I think it's not working at the moment. And also, we don't have to underestimate that without a defender like Kim, who can read the game so well, playing at such a high line is a bit difficult for Napoli. But now Napoli, yes, they look in trouble, also because they will be without Zambo for this game and without Osimhen until the end of November. Osimhen, 23 goals in 2023. Only Lautaro scored more in Serie A. And these are 2 big misses. Of course, last season when Raspadori and Simeone were called to play, they responded well, but it was a different Napoli. So this is going to be tricky, a tricky period for Napoli, of course, with the Champions League qualification still on the balance. They do attack. They take over 15 shots per match, but without precision. There is a lot of confusion, and they conceded in 9 out of 10. They conceded 9 in the last 8 games. Only 3 clean sheets in the last 10 games so far. 80% of Napoli games have been over 2.5 goals. 70% have been both to score. They do tend to concede quite a lot of goals. It looks like the balance is not quite there. Verona, the good news is that everyone is fit. They got Juric back, who scored Verona only goal in that defeat against Frosinone. It was the first goal in the last 5 games, and the partnership with Gonge seems to be the best one. They might sense the opportunity here, Verona. It's a wounded Napoli, and they might go for it. Recently, only lost 1-0 to Milan Atalanta. I think this is an under for me. Under 2.5 goals, 196. Maybe a low margin win for Napoli here, 196.
Verona defense is really poor, according to Samuel. Well, Napoli to win is only 1.7 for Samuel. Actually, he's going for Napoli to win and over 2.5 goals. This is a must win for Napoli playing against Union Berlin in the Champions League. Also on Saturday, we have Torino, Inter. Before the break, Inter dropped points against Bologna despite leading 2-0 in that game. Danny was telling us and warning us that Inter was tired before that game. He saw that in the games before, but Inter were getting the results correct until that point, Danny, until the game against Bologna. Now they are behind Milan. Luckily, I guess Torino is a good place to get the 3 points, only 2 victories this season for Torino, and Inter, they've won all the games away this season in Serie A.
Yeah, but they've never been impressive, I must say, away from home. And that game against Real Sociedad in Champions League, they should have lost. The problem with Inter is more mental than technical or physical. Again, they squandered the points after they took the lead against Bologna. They were 2-0 up, so they had a very clear game plan: score early, take the lead early, start well, because they knew they were going to be tired after the Champions League. But sometimes they seem to take the foot off the gas, especially in easy games, and they've done it time and time again also last season. At the moment, it's better for them because they're now losing, they're drawing, but against Sassuolo, for example, they lost. They do create chances. Just think about the fact that Lautaro Martinez is already in double figures in Serie A. They can score goals. It's about managing the game, especially those games when everyone thinks they are better than the opposition, and they actually are. And sometimes they seem to almost think they're going to win by default. So there is obviously a concentration issue there. They're unbeaten away from home, of course. They won 4-0 in Salerno the last away game, but they haven't scored more than 2 goals each time. So be careful, because this is going to be, I think, a cagey one. Inter, of course, before the Champions League midweek against Salzburg. Torino, no goals in the last 3 games, lost another derby. They never win against Juventus, have not won in the last 18 derbies. And what I say about Torino is that they're a solid, pugnacious side, but their record against the top 6 in Italy is very, very poor. They don't have that epic in them that gets them to win against big teams. Last season, they beat Milan and Lazio, but that's the only 2 teams they beat in the last 2 seasons and a bit. So really find it difficult against top sides. They're going to be without Buongiorno, without Sazonov, so a little bit of emergency continues in defense. And they only won 1 of the last 11 home matches. Since January 2022, they've drawn 13 out of 32 games played at home. So they find it hard to get the home win. This could gonna be, I think, another low-scoring game. I'm gonna go under 1 goal in the first half, 181. If there's only 1 goal in the first half, you get your money back.
It's surprising that the odds for Inter to win are higher than Napoli to win. If I have to trust one of these 2 teams, I'd go for sure for Inter. Corello is telling us that Inter will be angry after dropping points against Bologna. So Inter a straight win. And last game on Saturday is Sassuolo Lazio. I have to say, Danny, that this is a nightmare, I think, for betting. Okay. Because we have Sassuolo after beating, as we all know, Juve and Inter. Then they couldn't beat Monza and Lecce. This is no news for a team like Sassuolo, but also Lazio is kind of a hit and miss this season. Against Atalanta, they won after being 2-0 up, then 2-2 draw. And then at the end, Vecino scored the winner. It looks like they are getting better than 3 wins in the last 4. And now also they have to play Feyenoord in the Champions League.
Oh, the calendar is very tough for Lazio. They got Sassuolo, Feyenoord twice in the Champions League, Fiorentina, Bologna away, and then the derby before the international break. So really, this round of fixture can define Lazio's season. What is really strange about Lazio, the last season they were really, really solid, kept 21 clean sheet in Serie A. So far only kept 1 clean sheet in 10 games against Torino. So they almost have looked very fragile. They lost a solidity, but they have staged some great comebacks against Celtic, against Atalanta. Castellanos scored his first goal in Serie A. So it is weird because normally Sarri's team, they are not so unbalanced. So it's really difficult to pick Lazio here, but maybe the pause, the break, having more time to work with the players might have helped Lazio. They might be without Immobile, by the way, who's injured, but also there are rumors he might want to leave the club in January. He doesn't really fit into Sarri's plan. We'll see. They're level on points with Sassuolo. Sassuolo so far have scored more than Lazio, and they got a very informed player in Berardi. Scored already 5 goals, scored twice with Italy against Malta, and 16 goals and 8 assists for Berardi this year. So one, of course, to look for. If he's an open game, he will have chances. They scored 5 in 5 of the last 6 games, Sassuolo, and we know they have an habit of upsetting top sides. They've already won against Juve, against Inter, and they have beaten Lazio 3 times since 2020. So it's not impossible for Sassuolo to pull another big result against a top side. 63% of both teams' games this season have been both to score. Only 50% have been over 2.5 goals. Very, very difficult to predict. I'm going to go with a stronger side, at least on paper. Lazio, Asian handicap 0, 190. If Lazio wins, you win. If they draw, you get your money back.
This is kind of a nightmare for me again. Both teams to score seems a logic thing here for many people. For Corello, for Collins, they are telling us both teams to score, and also there is some hope for Lazio. Immobile going to Juve, James is asking you, Danny?
No, more likely to Saudi Arabia. Juventus don't need another striker. They need some midfielders, but certainly not Immobile.
Yeah, it looks like a player to go to Saudi Arabia, to be honest, Immobile. Well, the other team in the capital, Roma, playing at midday against Monza on Sunday. Roma, they look like they turned the corner finally in this season because they started really poor, but 3 consecutive victories, scoring plenty of goals. Also against Cagliari, they dominated the game. Lukaku is scoring with Roma, with Belgium, Danny, but Monza, they are in good form. They had a tough start of the season because they had a tough opposition, but now they beat Salernitana and Sassuolo in the last 2 games without conceding, and they have more points than Roma, actually.
Yes, they got more points than Roma, unbeaten in 5. They are up to 7th. They started playing well again and scoring goals, although the top scorer is a midfielder Colpani. But, contribution from Colombo. Vignato scored against Salernitana from 2004. Is the youngest scorer so far this year in Serie A. And, they are a side that always goes and play against anybody with no fear and can create chances. Has to be said also that Di Gregorio, the goalkeeper of Monza, has been one of the best so far in Serie A. So you can expect goals. This is a side, Monza, that in 46 games in Serie A only managed 1-0. So normally there are goals. Roma, they're scoring, yes, second best attack of Serie A, 19 goals scored, although they scored 7 against Empoli. They scored in all 10 matches this season, never drew a blank. At home, always scored 2 or more apart from the game against Milan. Lukaku, we mentioned, 7 goals with Roma, 2 goals with Belgium. Spinazzola and Aouar are improving as well. Roma have scored with 9 different players so far this season. So everything points towards goals. Of course, there is a big question mark. Roma are going to be without Paulo Dybala, who picked up a muscular injury because of a bad tackle from a Cagliari player in the last game. He should be back to play against Inter next week for Lukaku return to San Siro. I don't think they're going to risk it for this game. It's so important. But Belotti seems in form, of course. Still without Smalling, Roma still without Pellegrini. And interestingly, 75% of the games have been both to score and over 2.5 goals for Roma. So a lot of goals in Roma's game so far. The defense still an issue, especially without Smalling. Interesting, Roma have got 14 players that play with the national side. Monza only 2, Colombo and Machin. Maybe the Brianzoli are slightly fresher, both to score for me here. Interesting, 191.
Joseph Bangura is also going for both teams to score. Some of our audience picked Lukaku anytime to score. This is a good one. I read some news, Danny, about Mourinho leaving the club in summer. I guess it's a bit fake because it's still far away, no?
Is running out. The contract runs out in summer and is not being renewed. So yeah, probably he's gonna let his contract expire. If he manages to qualify Roma for the Champions League, then his mission accomplished. And we know about Mourinho 3 years cycle. Sometimes it's less than 3 years, it's 2 years. So it will make completely sense for Mourinho to try and live on a high. And yeah, we know that it doesn't really, well, obviously he fits in Roma, but he has had some disagreement with the management. He thinks maybe he would deserve a better squad than what Roma can afford.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mourinho has these agreements with life. I think no matter who you are, the Mourinho always disagrees. Some people are seeing also a draw, by the way, and pays really well 4.0 if Roma drop points here. Next game, two teams overperforming this season. Bologna, Frosinone. Bologna, the team that upset Inter, only one defeat this season. They are drawing a lot, 5 out of the last 6. And Frosinone, remember, newly promoted team, 12 points, beating Verona in the last game, and only 2 defeats this season. So perhaps even if the bookies point us to a Bologna win, Danny, there is a lot of value in the draw here.
There is a lot of value in the draw, considering that Frosinone is a scoring side. 75% of Frosinone games so far this season, both to score. They do score. They score also with 8 different players in Serie A. They are currently 8th. They got 1 more point than Bologna. Frosinone only lost 1 of the last 7, 2-0 against Roma. But even at the Olimpico, they had chances. Bologna, on the other hand, plays well. Regardless of the absentees, they are a bit in an emergency in defense without Lukumi, Posch, Christensen, but they are unbeaten since Matchday 2. Also against Milan, when they lost the first game, they played well, and this is the first time they are unbeaten in 7 out of the first 8 games since 89-90. Thiago Motta is doing a really, really good job, and if you pick the Bologna starting 11, you cannot find a bad player, someone that you say, not really a quality play. They're all good. They're all good on the ball. They're all confident, young, energetic. It is a good side. They don't have a great goal scorer up front, although Zirkzee is getting better. But I think if they had a strong finisher, this Bologna side could definitely finish in the top 8, top 7, maybe even qualify for the Conference League. Frosinone, on the other hand, they are exciting because they got a lot of interesting youngsters, from Soale to goals and to assists, Monterisi, Reiner, which you should know very well because he's on loan from Real Madrid, scored his first goal in Serie A last game against Verona. I think this is going to be an entertaining one. Over 1.5 goals in the second half, 2.10.
Well, Rainier is a complete flop. They signed Vinicius or Rodrigo were the good ones, and Rainier was the flop. Bologna, by the way, only 8 goals scored this season. And
they don't score many. They don't score many. They create, but they don't score many. That's always the catch with them.
Corello is going for a cautious one. For instance, Frosinone, Asian handicap +1. They are the underdog for this game. Then the 2 worst teams in the Serie A, Salernitana, Cagliari. This game is very important for both sides, both with 0 victories, together with Udinese, the only teams without a victory, and also both are conceding a lot of goals. Danny, they have a lot of problems scoring. So it's a drama, to be honest, for both sides, from Salernitana and Cagliari. This is the classic both teams to lose.
And Salernitana with a new manager. After no wins in 8 games, they sacked Paulo Sousa, who did so well last season, and in comes Filippo Inzaghi, 3-time Scudetto winner, World Cup champion. But the last experience in Serie A for Inzaghi was with Benevento. They got relegated. Last season, they were in Serie B with Regina, but he's an experienced manager now, Super Pippo. And good news for him is that everyone is fit. So the most important players are back. Boulaïdia finally should be starting more games regularly. There was a lot of issues with his transfer to the Premier League that didn't happen. So obviously without last season top scorer, 14 goals, they struggled. Candreva, Mazzocchi, now they need to start delivering. Salernitana uses to be a team that concedes a lot, scores a lot, often saved by Ochoa, conceded 3 against Monza. They should have a goal. Let's see if Inzaghi can make them a little bit tighter, a little bit more compact. I need to start picking up the ugly 1-0 wins, which they rarely do. Last season, so far, Salernitana, by the way, they got the worst defense in Serie A, 17 conceded, only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 5 games at home played in Serie A. Cagliari, on the other hand, they're not better, only scored 3 goals, 2 with Luvumbu, which, by the way, is fit to start. 2 points in the first 8 games for Cagliari. That's the worst start in their top flight history, and they conceded 7 goals in the last 3 away games. Now, I do believe in new manager bounce. Normally, when there is a new manager, also we saw with Empoli, there is a reaction from players. Now, Salernitana had never scored first this season, and I'm going to go for Salernitana to score first, 191. It plays really well. Cagliari have conceded the first goal in 5 out of the last 8 games. I'm going to go for Salernitana to take the lead, 191.
It's funny that the best of the brothers in the pitch as footballer, no? Filippo, yes, at the end is the worst of the managers of the brothers.
Well, is that a different career? I mean, I think Filippo Inzaghi has had chances at top teams like Milan early in his career, whereas Simone Inzaghi has done more youth coaching, has had, perhaps his progression has been a little bit slower, but he built himself up more thanks to the experience in Lazio's youth teams. I think maybe Simone Inzaghi was catapulted a little bit too early, but credit to Inzaghi. He's always managed, Filippo Inzaghi, and he's not been afraid of going down to Serie B to gain a little bit more experience. But this is a really important step in his career.
What a legend, Filippo Inzaghi.
Yeah.
I loved him. Yeah, I love him. He's scoring with every single part of his body goals. Next game, Dani, Atalanta, Genoa. And talking about scoring goals, Atalanta have not conceded a goal at home yet. Only Juventus could grab a point there, undeserved. But Atalanta already 3 defeats this season away from home. Genoa, Dani, on the other hand, decent start, especially as you always mention, with 10 goals scored. This is a good tally for a newly promoted team. And also they put a fight against Milan in that iconic game now with Giroud saving the last chance.
It was a bit unlucky for Genoa. I think they probably deserved a point against Milan. Even Pulisic's goal probably should not have stood. There is a suspect touch with the hand, not picked up a VAR. Then in the end, yes, Magnan sending off. The good news for Genoa is that Retegui, their top scorer with 3 goals, just behind Gudmundsson. I think he's got 4 goals, Gudmundsson. But Retegui should be back. So they got an outlet because really they don't have another centre forward, and playing without Retegui coasted them against Milan. Atalanta, on the other hand, a good comeback against Lazio, then lost, but it could be down to being tired. They were traveling and winning against Sporting Lisbon the first day before. Maybe the squad was a little bit short because of injuries. Still have to deal with a few injuries. Gasperini, they might be without Cobb Miners, probably Toloi, but I think they will do the turnover in the Europa League against Sturm Graz and put the strongest 11 here against Genoa. The good news from the international break, the Scamacca has scored for Italy, finally the first goal at Wembley, and this really should be the man that lead the attack for Atalanta. So far, the season has been a little bit hit and miss because of muscular injury, but if Scamacca is fit, I think Atalanta are going to score plenty of goals. Should play with Scamacca, Lookman, and De Ketelaere for this one. So a very attacking side. Look also for the battle on the wings. Ruggeri, Zappacosta against Haps and Sabelli. That's probably one of the strongest sides for each team. For Genoa, as I said, I think it's a very strong side. They will be saved. They go enough goals. They are dynamic. They fight. Frendrup, the Danish, is one of the Scody eyes a lot. He's a very good midfielder. They're going to be without the starting goalkeeper Martinez, who also got sent off against Milan. Atalanta have kept 4 clean sheets at home, and this is the anomaly. Genoa are scoring 6 out of 8 games in Serie A. I'm gonna go for a Genoa handicap +1, 190. I don't think they're gonna get beaten heavily. If they only lose by 1 goal margin, you get your.
Okay, we have, for instance, Bangura telling us both teams to score. So Genoa, the first team to score in Bergamo. Atalanta half-time, full-time for Ismail, or Atalanta to score over 1.5 goals for Corello. Some other options, of course, Atalanta really favorites for this game, 6th in the standings behind Napoli right now. And the best game this match day, Milan-Juve. Milan top of the table. Great reaction after the defeat in the derby. 4 consecutive victories. They have a tough week after the international break because it's Juve and then PSG. Whereas Juve, Dani, we are not very happy with the way they played. It's not a team that we are waiting for them to play and watch them on TV, but they are only 4 points away from Milan after the victory in the derby, and only 2 points behind Inter after Inter dropped points with Bologna.
So this is the start of a very difficult cycle of games for Milan, who after this are going to play PSG twice, Napoli away, and it's a test to understand how better and how deeper is the squad compared to last year. Everyone believes Milan have improved. Now we'll see, because they'll have to face top opposition one after the other. So far, so good, because they won 7 out of 8 games, and only once in their history, back in 1951, they didn't win the Scudetto in the end after having such a good record. So they look good, and they have more options up front, for sure. It's the only team, Milan, in the 5 major European leagues with 3 players, Leao, Pulisic, and Giroud, to have contributed to at least 5 goals each. And funnily enough, they won against Genoa without the 3 players aforementioned starting the games, with the second string players, which, by the way, somehow have delivered, because, Cafora scored a couple of goals. We are waiting to see a little bit more from Chukwueze, but certainly Adli, who has been replacing Krunic, has been really good. But the important news for Milan is that since Tomori got back from suspension after they lost 5-1 the derby, they've only conceded 1 goal in the last 6 games. Someone believed they needed to strengthen the defense this summer. They didn't. Let's see. They will be put to the test. In the top games, in the most important games, they should have been a little bit more clinical, especially against Newcastle, Dortmund. But if they do that, they showed a lot of they're very cohesive, they're very strong as a group. They will be without Hernandez and Magnan, both suspended, also without Krunic. Maybe Loftus-Cheek will come back. And now let's go with Juventus. 3 clean sheets in a row. But let's not get fooled by these results, because they came against 2 sides, Lecce and Torino, not renowned for scoring a lot of goals, and against Atalanta, Juventus basically didn't want to play the game, were really passive. So how good is Juventus back 3? Last season, let's not forget, they kept 8 consecutive clean sheets in Serie A. Everyone said, oh wow, it's the bunker. They went to Napoli, 5-1 to Napoli. So as soon as the game opens up and Juventus have to chase the game, the goals might flow. They're going to be without Danilo and without Alexandro. So it's a little bit of a makeshift defense with Rugani in the middle and Bremer on the side, and Gatti as well. Chiesa and Vlahovic should be fit for this one, but really is the same team as last year. The only change is McKennie now playing on the right of the midfield. Let's see if Allegri manages to change the mentality. To me, they seemed very risk-adverse, especially after they conceded 4 goals against Sassuolo. They are unbeaten in the last 5 games, Milan against Juventus. All the last 4 games have been under 2.5 goals. For me, it's a low-scoring game, and I go for under 1.25 goals in the second half, 183, which means if there's only 1 goal in the second half, you win half a stake. No goals in the second half, you win the full stake.
Well, very difficult to bet on Juventus. Watching them in the last games, Gersao is telling us, and probably he is totally right. And this is a difficult one. Many people are going for Milan or Milan draw no bet, and other ones are saying that perhaps the game against PSG can distract Milan as well a little bit, because they're starting the Champions League.
No, it's impossible. These games in Italy are so big that you don't get distracted by what's coming up next. If they were playing Empoli, Salernitana, yeah, maybe, but no, these are so big games. You can't get distracted.
Well, let's see, big game in this. Indeed, this Milan Juve. Let's see if Juve can be also competitive against the top teams in Serie A. And for Monday, Danny, we have a couple of games. So Udinese Lecce is the first one. Udinese still with no victories, 5 points. Lecce with a great start that we mentioned before with 12 points. I mean, before in other videos, with 12 points, but no victories away this season for Lecce. Udinese favorite, but I guess it's impossible to trust Udinese. What is your angle on this one?
Very difficult, because Udinese, they take a lot of shots. They are fifth in the table for shots in Serie A, but they don't score many. They do lack a cool striker, someone that can convert the shots. If you look at the expected goal statistics, which I know Alvaro hates, but I like them, only Monza should have scored more goals, plus 6.72, than Udinese, compared to the chances that they create. And as a result, this is the worst start of a Serie A campaign since 94-95. They lose here, I think Sottil is gonna go. Lecce, on the other hand, have slowed down after a very good start. No wins in 3 for the Salentini, but unlike Udinese, they always give me the sensation that they can actually dig themselves out of a hole. They are top, Lecce, for points rescued in Serie A, 5. They conceded the first goal in 6 occasions, but still managed to get points, and they have a goal scorer, Nikola Krstovic, already 4 goals in his debut season in Serie A, which Udinese don't have. Yes, it's true that they haven't won yet away, but last season Lecce collected more points away, 19, than at home, 17. So basically they got saved because of their decent away form. I think this could be a draw, and I like the Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Lecce, which pays 2, which basically doubles your money if they win. But if they draw, you still win half a stake.
Draw is a good one. Both teams to score for Joseph, for Corello. So it looks like a good idea for most of the people, although Udinese only 4 goals scored. They are not the team with less goals in this Serie A, because we have Empoli with only 1 goal and 4 points. You cannot do better with only 1 goal score. Our last game is the derby in Tuscany, Fiorentina-Empoli. Danny, very one-sided. I guess it's almost a safe bet going for Fiorentina to win 1.5 is great. Their last form, 4 victories in the last 5 games, scoring plenty of goals with Nico Gonzalez at the top of the goal scorer standings. Everything is good in the beautiful city of Florence.
The big surprise of Serie A, and the best team so far that have played in Serie A. Best football, very entertaining, scored plenty of goals. I said in my previous video, only 3 teams in Europe, top 5 competitions. Only 2 teams, Real Madrid and Manchester City have scored more goals in 2023 than Fiorentina in all competition. They went to Napoli, scored 3, hit the post twice. Really, really entertaining. And if they do win against Empoli, that will be the best start of the season since 1994. But there is more going on in Florence than just the football is the project. They just built and finished a new sporting center, a training center. There are projects for the American owners, Commisso, to develop a legacy and leave something behind. So there is a lot of enthusiasm in Firenze. And of course, they are playing well. Bonaventura, 4 goals, 2 assists, scored with the national team, didn't play against England. He's going to feature in this game for sure. 8 out of 14 games so far at Fiorentina have seen more than 2.5 goals scored. In all their 6 home matches this season, they've scored at least 2 goals. It's an interesting time to be a Fiorentina supporter, because next they will play Lazio, Juventus. They got an important game in midweek against Cucarichi in the Conference League, and they play Empoli, who have conceded 16 so far. They drew 0-0 against Udinese, but it wasn't a boring 0-0. Both have chances. Udinese cannot score to save their life. Also, Empoli with Baldanzi and Caputo missed a few. Baldanzi, by the way, scored with the under-21 Italy against Norway, but is a doubt because he picked up a knock and is by far Empoli best player, who are also without Pezzella, Malè, Maldini, Berezinski is a doubt. I think it's another high-scoring game. You might go for Fiorentina to win the first half. I find the value in over 1.5 goals in the second half, 185.
This is the last game we have in Serie A this match day. Fiorentina playing in Europe, playing on Monday. Fiorentina is a handicap minus 1.5 for Ismail. Well, Danny, tell us, I said before that Fiorentina to win could be a safe bet. Which one is your safe bet?
No, it's not. It's Bologna Frosinone over 1.5 goals, 130.
And you nailed your last ACCA in Serie A before the international break. I have good memory for that. And someone is already looking forward to listening to this one, Danny.
Okay, we'll take pen and paper. Then Sassuolo Lazio, double chance, X2. Salernitana, edge in handicap 0. Milan, edge in handicap 0. Total 415.
You have it in the screen. Well, best of lucks to everyone. Danny, thanks. I'm not sure if Fagioli and Tonali can now bet now that they are suspended. I guess
we should. But let's leave it. Let's leave it. Look, it's a deeper problem, and I think we are not probably the best people to commentate on that. If they are guilty, they should be punished. They got a punishment, and let's move on.
Let's enjoy Serie A.
Let's enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Exactly.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.